Hello everyone, it is a new vlog and it is the last vlog for the Amazing Readathon. Where has this month gone? I don't know. It has been crazy, chaotic, and so much fun. Bree, if I don't remember to say this before the end of this vlog, thank you so much for all the work that you've done for this Readathon because it has been genuinely fantastic. We are off to a new city and we are off to Beijing, China. And with that, we have to have a font on the cover of our books that has like some sort of calligraphy type situation. So a cursive or some filigree, stuff like that. And for this prompt, I'm going to be picking up The Trial of Sorcerers by Elise Kova. This is Rye from Rye's Reading Corner's book club pick for the month of August for the Book Club Unlimited. I am a co-host. Rye was so generous to ask me to co-host for the month, so I need to read this book so that I can talk about it on a live show. So it works for this prompt, finally, and I'm finally gonna read it. That being said, because I'm going to be on the live show with Rye, and I don't know as of filming this clip when that live show is, I think this vlog might go out before the live show. So I am not going to be vlogging my experience with this book because I want everyone to get my experience when we talk about it with the book club. So I will not be chatting with you about this book during this vlog, but just so you know, I will be getting to China with this book. You just won't see that in the vlog. So this is an introduction to the last week of Amazing Readathon with not a lot of books to be talking about as of this moment, but we still do have 2 more cities to go to, and obviously I have no idea what those are. Not a clue. So I'm gonna read The Trial of Sorcerers, make some notes for the live show, get myself prepared to talk eloquently, and then I will come back and chat with you when we're going to whatever city leg 9 is of this readathon, because I don't know. But for this vlog, you're not gonna see my actual thoughts for the leg, but this is how I'm getting to China, and we're gonna be moving on to the next city in the next clip. I was on sprints last night. I was doing 7 hours of sprints on my channel yesterday. And with 2 minutes left in the very last sprint on my channel, Bree decided to reign the chaos and drop another city. At which point I had been sprinting for a very long time. I picked a new book. I finished the book that I was reading because I was about 30 minutes away from finishing a sightseeing book for the previous prompt. So I did finish that. I picked a new book and I went, this will be a tomorrow problem because I was very tired. So we are going to Tokyo and we needed a place in the title, a place, a direction, a destination. So I have decided to read The Witches of Moonshine Manor by Bianca Maris for this prompt. I just bought this. This was part of my Shop With Me for Blue Books book, and I get to read it, and I'm very excited to be picking this up. This obviously has the location of Moonshine Manor, which is not a real place, but it is a place in the book, so that counts. I have not started this yet. I took the morning, not really off, but off from reading. I filmed for Pick-Pongathon. This morning, I threw balls in cups, and by the time you see this video, that one will already be out, so you'll know how that went. But it didn't go as bad as I thought it would. I was a bit concerned at my ping pong ability, to be honest, but it went okay. So I did that this morning. I've been kind of looking at what I need to be reading in September, making some plans. It's overwhelming. We're not going to talk about it. I was hoping for it to be a chill month, but between Pick-Pongathon and Timmy's TBR and then also content, oh, and Rom-Comathon, I'm in trouble. But anyway, let's just focus on the readathon I'm actually working on right now, which is the Amazing Readathon. I will be reading The Witches of Moonshine Manor for Tokyo, and I am joining Aoife on sprints in like 20 minutes. So I wanted to let you know so that I could start this book on sprints. I will come and chat with you when I hit 50% of this book and actually tell you what it's about, because other than that it's a cozy fantasy, I do not know. It's a witchy book. It's a cozy fantasy. Witch books, I will read about witches any time of the day. I am always happy to read about the witches. So I'm all in for that. For some reason, I believe these are like senior witches, like older witches. I will give you a synopsis when I hit the 50% mark and I've actually read something to be able to say what the book is about. So I have made it to 50% in The Witches of Moonshine Manor, And I will say, I still don't really know how I feel about this book, so I'm just going to give a synopsis and then I'll come back and chat with you with my actual thoughts once I finish the book, because there's so much going on in this book and in such a short period of time that I think I need to look at it as a collective to really know my full thoughts on it, if that makes sense. There is a lot going on in this tiny little book. It's only 360 pages and there's a lot happening. So this follows 6 witches. They are in their 70s and 80s, and they are still getting it done. We start off with them just living their existences. They are proud women. They are strong women. They are still living their lives. They're not being confined by feeling older or letting their age limit them in any way. And I absolutely love that about this book. I really, really do. All of a sudden, the men of the community show up because they are late on their payments for Moonshine Manor. And it's about to be foreclosed upon. And really, all the men in town want to get rid of the witches anyway. And they are jumping on the chance to evict them from their home. Even the tagline on the book says, "Why were we taught to fear witches and not the men who burn them?" Which I am loving that storyline, and I was loving the beginning of this book with that storyline, but there's so much else going on that I don't know if the book feels cluttered. But anyway, like I said, I'm just going to do the synopsis now. So they team up with Persephone, who is a 15-year-old who is the mayor's daughter, and she is a TikToker, and she is going to help them band against the community to stop them from taking down Moonshine Manor. We also see that the 6th witch, Ruby, is actually in prison at the beginning of this book due to something that happened about 30 years ago, and there's quite a mystery around what happened that put Ruby in prison. Ruby is now coming out of prison at the start of this book. We're seeing what has happened to Ruby, who Ruby is, what happened 30 years ago that put Ruby in prison, and also it affects all of the witches, what happened back in the past. And there's a bit of a mystery there. They're looking for something. Ruby hid it before she went to prison. There is a lot going on in this book, like I said. And I do feel like it may feel a little bit like there's too much going on in this book at this moment in time, but I want to hold off my perceptions of the book until the end, because it all depends on how it all connects, if it works or if it's too much. And I don't want to really say until I get through the book more. But basically, this book follows these 6 witches, Ruby coming home from prison, what happened that put Ruby in prison, the mysteries surrounding that the other 5 need to know, and also saving Moonshine Manor from eviction. So we'll see how this all shakes out in the end. Honestly, I don't know. I don't really know where we're going at this moment. Not really. Like, I'm assuming we'll save the manor, but like, other than that, I don't know. So that's why I'm gonna just hold my thoughts until the end of this book. But that is the synopsis of this book, and I will chat with you with my full thoughts when I'm finished. Hello friends, I'm actually really glad I waited to give any real thoughts about this book until I finished, because there's a lot going on in this book, and what the synopsis of the book says is not really the main plot line of this book. I understand why it's in here a little bit. I almost feel like there either could have been a duology where you followed 2 different storylines to make 2 different points, or made this book a little bit bigger to really hit home what the author was trying to say with this book. But with what we've got, I still gave it 4 stars because I still really appreciated the story. There was a lot of fun and lighthearted moments amongst the heavier topics that had me laughing out loud. There's spells in here for the most random things, and I died reading the spells. The spells are so funny. So at the start of this book, the witches are at risk of losing their home, and a band of the town men kind of come to rid the witches, evict them, so they're finally getting rid of these witches. And Persephone, who is a 15-year-old TikToker, kind of steps up and says they still have 10 more days, you can't evict them yet, and gets on TikTok and shows kind of that this is unfair. They can't just evict them until the 10 days is up. So the mob leaves and the witches are kind of trying to figure out how to save their home. And that's what's in the synopsis. And there is a really interesting look on how women are seen as evil and men are just naturally seen as right in the scope of history. Like it says here, we were taught to fear the witches and not the men who burn them. And that's where the story starts. And that's what I was expecting the story to be. And I was enjoying that. And then as soon as the mob is gone, which happens in the first, very early on in this book, we don't talk about saving their home for a very long while. In the end, it's talked about again. And because we just abandon that storyline for so much of the story, I feel like it could have done without. Because at the heart of this book, that's not what this story is about. This story is about Ruby. Ruby, like I said, is coming home after 30 years in prison. And we find out what caused Ruby to go to prison. It's actually a very heartbreaking story. And Ruby, one of Ruby's powers from a very young age is to change who she is to the outside world. And Ruby was born as a man and has always identified as a female and will change to fit a female. As Ruby got older, her magic diminished and the ability to do that became more and more difficult. So now Ruby wants to do a spell to make herself a woman permanently. They pick up Ruby from prison and Ruby actually doesn't at first remember the witches. We find out that Ruby has a form of Alzheimer's, and that also is talked about in the book. So really, this book is about them figuring out this situation, looking into aging, how women age, and how aging is harder on women than it is on men. I love how these women are just still doing their thing at the age of 70 and 80. They are still rocking it. They're still taking names, but you also see them kind of with Ruby looking at what the future might hold for them, or even what it's already holding for their friend, losing their memories, and how hard that is to watch your friends going through that. That is such a really great commentary in this book. The other fantastic commentary is obviously the commentary on gender identity. I really loved seeing how it was covered in this book. It was really interesting to see it covered in like a magical way. And it was such a poignant look at gender fluidity and gender identity. And that's what I think this book could have been perfectly. And I kind of wish the part about them losing their house would have been even a sequel book. So take that all out of this book and put it in a sequel. I would have read that sequel all day long and done a feminist study with this author on the place of women and men in the patriarchy with these witches. I would have gladly done that. Gladly. And I think this book would have been 5 stars had we done it that way. I just felt that it was a little bit too cluttered in this book, that it took away from the main points that the author was trying to make in either situation. We couldn't really focus on either of them as much as I wanted because we were just trying to fit too much in such a small book. So either make the book bigger, or like I said, I would have gladly read a sequel. I just felt like we had this whole setup for a storyline and then it was really dropped for so long. I just didn't really like how that was done. So I couldn't give this 5 stars for that reason. But other than that, this book is a 4-star book for me. And I really loved the topics it was tackling, with some humor in there as well, with some cozy fantasy vibes. And in my opinion, definitely something that I would recommend you picking up. But like I said, I would have really loved a sequel with that other storyline of them needing to save their house with Persephone flushed out a little bit more, because I did really love Persephone's character. And we did get a lot of Persephone, but I think there's even more that we could see with this mentoring of this young girl by these wonderful, strong women. They have so much to teach her, and that's in this book a little bit as well. But again, I think you could have taken that whole storyline of them losing their house and meeting Persephone and building up the next generation of strong women in a whole other book, and made this Ruby's book. Ruby coming home from prison, how Ruby ended up in prison, everything about what Ruby wants to be who she is inside. That's what this book could have been all on its own. That's my personal opinion, obviously. It's just my opinion. Obviously, I loved the book because I would have rather had 2 of them. But it was a good read. I'm glad I read it for this round or this leg of Amazing Readathon. And I'm excited to see where we go next. I don't know as of filming this, so I'm gonna go do some sightseeing and I will check back in with you once I know where we're going. Okay, so Bree did the thing. We are off to Australia and it is our last leg of the Amazing Readathon. I cannot believe it's the last leg.
It's the last leg.
What? How? I don't even know how we're here, but here we are. With this leg, I need a genre blend. This was very easy for me because there's a book that Bree has been wanting me to read for a very long time. And really, it is fitting that I read it during the Amazing Readathon, Bree's Amazing Readathon. Because every time I say on live sprints or anywhere that I am not a horror girly, I've tried horror. It doesn't work for me. I'm not a horror girly. Bree goes, have you read Darcy Coates and Voices in the Snow? And I go, not yet. I will try it. I promise. Because Bree is convinced this will change my mind. Because I think it is a sci-fi horror. I believe that's what Bree has told me. And Bree is convinced that I am going to like this. So I'm going to read Voices in the Snow for this prompt by Darcy Coates. Do I know anything about this book other than that it's a sci-fi horror? Nope, not a thing. Not a thing at all. So I will go read a little bit of it and then I will tell you what the book is about. All I know is that Bree loves this series. I know Rye loves this series because it's one of Rye's host favorites. So I have high hopes, but also I'm not a horror girly. So I'm also a little bit nervous. Hi everyone, it has been a few days since I've chatted with you. What happened was I started Voices in the Snow right before sprints on Monday night. I read through sprints, everything was fine, got to 50% of Voices in the Snow. It was late, it was 11 o'clock when sprints ended, 11:30. So I just went to bed and was like, I will inform you of what I thought of the first 50% in the morning. By morning, I had the flu and no one needed to see me. And I did not need to present myself in front of a camera post-flu. And it is now the last day of the readathon. And I am finally feeling able to present myself to a camera. So here we are. Hi. This vlog is definitely going to be the shortest of all the Amazing Readathon vlogs because one book I didn't vlog, the second book I did, and the third I had the flu for. So anyway, I am still at 50% through Voices in the Snow, so I need to finish that today. A lot has happened while I had the flu, and I need to finish this book today and get it in for the readathon. It should be fine because like I said, I read the first 50% of this very quickly over sprints on Monday night. So it's very doable to finish it, but I need to. But first, I wanted to tell you what Voices in the Snow is about because I definitely did not tell you when I said I was reading it because I did not really know. So this follows our main character, Claire. Claire, in the very first chapter of this book, is in her car in a snowstorm trying to get to her aunt's house. We are not really sure why she has left her home in what seems like a pretty bad snowstorm to get to her aunt's house. That I still do not know. She gets to this forest that she needs to enter to get to her aunt's house. She drives into the forest and is in some sort of car crash. We do not know what causes the car crash. Jump forward to Claire waking up in a house. She does not know where she is. She has been tended, her wounds have been tended, and she has no idea how she got there. There's a man in this house. He says that he has found her in her car, brought her back to his house because they are snowed into this woods and can't get out. There's no cell service. There's no phone service. There's no way to get help. He stitched her up and they're now waiting for basically the snow to stop and the roads to become passable so that she can leave and he can take her to a hospital. She has trust that he's telling her the truth. And very quickly, there seems to be something kind of creepy about this house. I can't really go into details about what is creepy about this house because it's not in the synopsis, but the house is a bit creepy and there's some creepy things happening in the house. And that's really all I know at this point of the book because I don't know what's causing the creepy things in the house. I don't really know what's going on, but it's creepy. I really like both of our main characters, Claire and the man. And to be honest, I would love to tell you the man's name, but as of this moment, I have forgotten because it has been 3 days since I picked up this book and the name has left my brain. So once I start reading it again, that will be triggered, and probably in the next vlog update, I will actually remember his name. Character names are really hard for me to remember, to be truthfully honest. I'm not the best at remembering character names. Who they are in the book, totally remember every plot point, but their names leave me very quickly. Like I said, I'm liking both the characters. I'm enjoying finding out what's going on. I'm actually having a really good time with this book, which is different for me for horror. So I think Brie was right that this may be a horror book that I actually like. But let's wait till the end, because the one thing that I don't typically like about horror is that things are not explained. I want explanations for the things that are happening, and I find in horror that doesn't happen. So I want to wait till the end to be sure that I'm enjoying this, because I want to know what the creepy things are, and I want to know what's going on. So I hope that that's explained in this book. Anyway, I'm going to go read Voices in the Snow because I have to finish it today. I really must, so that I actually complete The Amazing Race, because this flu has put me behind. I had big plans for this last round of The Amazing Race, and I haven't been reading for 2 days. So I need to go read Voices in the Snow and figure out what is going on in this book. I cannot believe this, but The Amazing Readathon is over. It is September 1st. I cannot believe it's over. I don't know what to do with myself. Thank goodness I have a huge TBR, because I think if I didn't, I would be like, what do I do today? Because I honestly feel like lost. I kind of woke up today expecting Brie to have dropped something in the Discord, because I've now just gotten used to that. Like, it takes 21 days to make a habit. Like, I'm used to this now. It has been such a fun month, but first, let's talk about Voices in the Snow. I did finish Voices in the Snow last night, right before I had to get on launch sprints for Pickpongathon, and I ended up giving it 3 stars, which is sad because I was really enjoying the first half of this book when I was reading it. The second half I did enjoy, but I did find it got quite repetitive throughout the second half of this book. I can't really go into the details of why it was repetitive, because a lot of those would be spoilers to what is happening in the book. I can just tell you that for me, it got a bit repetitive and it started to lose me. There was a couple of twists at the end of this book. One I liked, one I felt was kind of trying to mesh 2 different storylines to make them kind of into one. And I don't know if that was necessarily needed or felt like it made sense in the world that we were currently living in. In my mind, it kind of felt a little out of place. And I don't think I really needed the commingling of those 2 storylines for me personally, but I could see why some people might have enjoyed that part of the book. For me, like I said, it ended up being a little bit repetitive, and I didn't necessarily care if those 2 storylines kind of came together. It almost felt like it was just put together for the sake of having these 2 storylines put together, not necessarily for any purpose. However, there is a sequel to this book, so maybe I'm missing what the purpose is, not knowing where the book is going to head, and I would be remiss to say that that may be true. Since I don't know what the next few books follow, maybe we're setting something up for a following book that I just can't see from the one book I've read. As the one book in and of itself, I'm gonna give it 3 stars. There were things I liked about it. There were things that, like I said, didn't hit for me as well. And we ended up with a 3 star. Anyway, that was my last book for The Amazing Readathon. This readathon has been so much fun. Thank you, Brie, for having me as a host for Team Blue. And thank you, Team Blue. Blue team, you were an amazing team. I had such a fun time reading with you and traveling the world with you. And also, all the other hosts, all the other teams, we have had such a fun month. And I cannot wait to maybe someday race around the world with you again in this amazing readathon style. If Brie ever wants to host it again, I'm down. This is the end of the Amazing Race 2023. Who will win? I do not know. This vlog's going up before I hear that information. Sometime on Saturday, we will find out. I'm still crossing my fingers and toes that Team Blue has won, but we shall see. Thank you so much for following my journey this month through all these vlogs. It's been so fun leaving little hints and just having a good time with all of you. Shout out your team for the final time in one of my amazing readathon vlogs down below. I'd love to see what teams are representing, and I will see you in the next one. Bye, everybody.